Good morning from sacred space at Titania's realm. It's 10:15 a.m. on the 6th of March 2025, which also happens to be my progenitor David Phillips's birthday. It's the first week of March is always a very emotionally triggering time for me. Lots of Well, I try not to dwell on it because they've been dead a long time now, my parents. But it's a confluence of dates from the 28th of February, which was my de facto stepfather's birthday, and then we had 3rd of March, which was my father's death date, his birthday today. Tomorrow, the 7th, when Cyclone Alfred's due to hit, will make landfall here in Brisbane, is also my mother's death date. My mother was a powerful, fucking evil witch, so not really inviting that energy of that confluence and congruence of that compounded energy, so I'll be fending that off as well. And then the 8th of March is my mother's mother, Eva Meyer's suicide date. So It's not one of my most fun times, the first week of March. It is what it is. And then hopefully I'll get a bit of respite in leading up to my birthday on the 12th of April, which happens to also be my grandfather Eric's death date. So it's weird how our family dates all seem to congregate along with anniversaries of other ancestors' deaths, births, what have you. It's odd. But anyway, Mama T will do what Mama T does best and keep riding through every storm. Riders in the storm. Anyway, I'm a bit more settled, as you can see from my video earlier today. I've washed my hair and brushed it. Feel a little bit more cleansed and purified and human again, and I'm dressed, and I was waiting for my cleaning lady to arrive, but then I realised they probably did tell me, but I forgot, cancelled it for today because everyone's prepping for the cyclone, so that's alright. I'm alright. It doesn't have to be clean today, it can wait, and I can do it myself if need be. I suspect when the cyclone hits and the water starts pouring through the window frames, I'll be doing a lot of mopping anyway and soaking up water with towels, so it's going to be a busy couple of days. But no big deal. As long as the roof stays on the house, and I know I won't get any major flooding because I very rarely flood. It floods a bit under the house, but most of the water drains away, so I'm safe from that. But my heart goes out to those of you in Brisbane and the lower underlying areas where you do flood. It's going to be a very precarious, scary time for you all. So much love to you. So anyway, I sat here and I thought I could go back to bed, which I said I was going to do in my earlier video. But I'm alive and I'm upright and I'm breathing, and might as well read a story. Let's just avoid what we can avoid by reading stories, because I may not have the internet for a few days if we lose power. I may. Everything may be, we may ride through it quite well, but it just depends on how badly it slams us and what happens, and we won't know till we know. But in the meantime, I'm preparing by not preparing, by going into my little, as my beautiful psychiatrist calls it, my little manic denialist world called Titania's realm, where I live with the fairies and the pixie folk and the elves and the gnomes and the occasional genie and occasional nasty little trolls that have to kick fair up the arse and throw up into a cyclone and watch them just drift away where trolls belong. somewhere else, as far away from humanoids as possible. But anyway, you get trolls on the internet. That's what I'm kind of riffing on and joking about. But anywho, in Titania's realm, the weather's always perfect. There's plenty of money and abundance. There's true and enduring, supportive and soul nourishing and nurturing love, and Mama T's always happy, and it's better than drugs. It's better than drugs, having an imagination. Drugs make you weak, make you ill, make you a piss-weak generation, incapable of functioning even in a crisis. So there is that. So I'm grateful that the gods made me reclaim my mind, body and spirit. Back in 2016, they knew what they were doing. They knew that there were going to be some very difficult, fraught times ahead, and they even told me so when they sent me back to Earth from the suicide attempt in August 2015. They said I'd be living through, apocalyptic conditions, but that I would be okay. So far, so good. Can't say I've always been okay. It's been a bit fucking how's your father and a bit tickety-boo and a bit fraught at times, but by and large I am okay. And so, to the Holy One and all manifestations of power and protection and holiness and wisdom and guidance and universal love, I'm grateful to all of that energy too. And let us continue on with the story, which interestingly, today's title is called The Guardian. Mama T, Titania, because I lived through immense life-threatening traumatic events most of my life up until the last 9 years or so. Part of me has what Jung called the uber soul, the extra soul, the uber mental, however you want to describe that. I have very powerful spirit protectors, and when things get very fraught, frightening, fragile, I have the ability to tap into that and remember who I am as a soul, that I have people living and people non-human and etheric who love me immensely and want to see me not just survive but thrive and have all my dreams manifested with harm to none and competition with none. So I'll get through this difficult time. It's just another little bit of a chest illness and a cyclone. All will be well. All will be well, my darlings. The Guardian. Man was easy to create. God simply shaped the clay, breathed life into it, and up jumped man, ready to go. I must read to you sometime the story about the golem. The medieval Talmudic Kabbalistic rabbis discovered a way to create a living creature out of clay and breathe life to it, but it wasn't quite fully human. It was still dependent on a special blessing that was put in its mouth to animate it. It was kind of the equivalent of the first robot, not quite alive, but able to be animated and serve its masters in times of crisis, for which it was actually built for and made for. So we can create life. maybe not quite in the same way as God breathing life and an actual soul into things, but we can create, we have created almost possibly already sentient AI. We have become our own gods. It's an astonishing thought, very humbling and terrifying thought at times. So I remain mortal and human and conscious that I'm really kind of a domesticated herd animal with not any real life skills training on how to survive, as in hunting and finding water and food in a post-natural disaster apocalypse. You know what makes me laugh? I was thinking about it this morning. Our government and our supermarkets, because I believe they're all complicit, are so fucking evil, right? That they knew the cyclone was coming. So they put out in the media and fearmongered the population, which in Brisbane here, our people are so munted down from decades of drugs and psych meds and the COVIDian poisoning and all the other poisons we've ingested through glyphosate in our wheat and bread and puddings and everything, vegetables, everything's tarnished by that. We're so poisoned and weakened. I call it the piss weak generation. I know I sound cruel and harsh and sadistic, but we really are. People in World War One and World War Two, went through the most extraordinarily evil circumstances, and yet they were more resilient and more supportive of each other, shared more, made sure there was more equitable distribution of resources. I mean, there were limited resources. My mother said that my grandmother used to swap cigarettes for a tiny, instead of getting the limited resources of sugar and butter, my grandmother was incredibly selfish, swap it for cigarettes. But there was always just small amounts provided for each family, but just barely enough, mind you. People were living in very harsh conditions. But I go to get food and everything's stripped bare already by Tuesday. And I blame the multinationals, the Woolworths and the Coles, because they're all government-sponsored fucking handmaidens of hell for literally starving us out. So if I should starve post this cyclone, I blame it on them. Feeding people into such a frenzy that with their greed and desperation, all they could think of to do was stockpile water, which, fair enough, you need water, but you can fill your bath with water like I did, and stockpile food, so that the rest of us vulnerable ones are left to potentially starve. Well, anyway, I probably won't starve. I'll probably get through fine. I've got plenty of resources. As I said earlier, plenty of rice and that. But it's just how we behave like fucking herd animals forced into a, what do you call it, where they herd the cattle into those cattle pens, just primed for the fucking slaughter and the sacrifice. It's really how I feel right now. I feel really fucking angry about it. How human beings in Brisbane, Australia act like swallow murmurations. Just moving wherever the media and the government tells them to without independent thought or critical thinking. And are just so greedy. Just so utterly fucking selfish and greedy. But it's human nature, isn't it? Guess it's not going to change. So what can I do about it? Just keep breathing, babies. Keep smiling. And be grateful for my beautiful friends who have supported me in recent days. And keep reminding myself that there is just as much evil in the world, but there is also powerful will to good. And carry on. Where were we when I segued there? Ah, yes. Man jumping up. Ready to go. Right, my beloved ones. Here we go. Story time. God smiled. I wonder what it looks like, because we're never allowed to see the face of God. I think Moses was the only one that was allowed to see his face. No, technically no, because he had to hide his head under a cleft in the rock. The light was so powerful. Makes you wonder if it was God at all, or visiting E.T. with lots of fucking radiation. He was told to hide to protect him from the radiation. Makes you ponder all these things we were taught in biblical times, where God might have actually been one of the gods, visitors from other galaxies or other dimensions. I do believe in those, and I'll be putting my faith in them at this time. But meanwhile, I'm an earthly, subject to nature and her vicissitudes, so blow her out back to sea, or rather, him. I'm trying to work out why they've started naming cyclones male names. They've traditionally always been female. I guess it's equal opportunity, not always blaming the female for cataclysms, but yeah, my grandfather Alfred better behave himself, be a good old boy. You'll be dealing with a mama. She won't be happy with you. Oh well, it is what it is. God smiled. Now, he said, I'll make your better half. Then you'll be complete. So then God shaped woman. He took great care and she turned out perfect. Pardon me. God was pleased. He tried again, breathing the life in. Very gently. She just lay there, lifeless clay. He shook her slightly and frowned. Man was watching anxiously. What's wrong? He cried. God didn't answer. He only rolled woman up into a ball between his palms and started all over again. This time he took even more care. And pretty soon there she lay, more perfect than ever. So once again, God kneeled forward and breathed life into her, more warmly and gently even than before. Still, nothing happened. There she lay, warm from God's hands, perfectly shaped, much more perfect than man, but lifeless. Man couldn't hold back any longer. Let me have a go, he cried, and almost pushed God aside. grabbed woman by the shoulders and began to shake her. "Wakey, wakey," he called. "Come on, time to go." The limp body shook like a rag doll, but her eyes stayed shut.